Hi everyone, Nick Campesi with Perpetual Rubber. Today I'd like to take a little time to discuss corporate recycling programs and many of the challenges that are associated with them. From a broad standpoint, most of the challenges that we see are very similar. A company makes a product and then they end up with a byproduct or a trim or a piece that's unwanted and they have to get rid of it. And the same challenges over and over pop up. The company has very limited real estate. Maybe, you can't get quite enough of it to justify having a container on site or a trailer, and then you have to figure out how to store 30 or 40 pallets of material to get enough to get on a truck. So beyond the quantity, just the logistics of moving it. You may have to have a baler or boxes on hand to put the material in. And another big challenge is material incompatibility. Even though this is something that could be valuable to you, it may not have a lot of value in the marketplace. And I always, as a rubber reclaimer, we go in and I always like to start and say, how important is this to you? And why? That's the first question is because you're going to have to really look at the material that you're generating and in this case rubber. We need to really talk about it from, okay, what's the highest and best use? And usually, we get into larger corporations. They may have a general recycler that is tasked with removing everything out and getting rid of it. And then some of those, we deal with many of those companies. But I always like to try to deal with the producer of the scrap themselves. And the reason why is because most rubber scrap has little to no value. And the reason why is the reclamation costs and the logistics to move it cost more than what it would cost to manufacture a new compound in most cases. And so, at Perpetual Rubber, we are able to reclaim 100% of all rubber. The problem with this is that the cost at which we do it, and we have to bill back to you as the company, may be quite a bit more than what the landfill cost is. And that's why I always say, how important is this to you? And I hope it's very important, but I also understand that sometimes, economics and the sustainability goals have to align because it's a very challenging marketplace. There's worldwide competition, and I know everyone's trying to increase the bottom line. Now, if we can just step back and say, okay, what's that highest and best use? And it's always going to be, are we able to create a circular economy with your scrap? Can we take what you're producing in a scrap, reprocess it, and give it back to you? Whether it's making another product, we could powder the rubber, give it back to you. You could put it back into your compound. We have people that manufacture different products. They take one product and then maybe take the powder and then press it into another product. So that's always going to be the best possible scenario. Now, I understand that might not be realistic, but I think it's good just to have a brainstorm session and discuss that to see, is it a possibility? And if not now, could we make that a possibility in the future? The second thing that we would do if we're unable to give you back your scrap, or at least a portion of it, would be are we able to have this product become marketable and valuable in the marketplace if we can reprocess it or treat it or do whatever needed, or is it able just to be wholesaled into the open market? And the case here is typically due to the way, with like a cured rubber scrap or even uncured, and we are able to work with some partially cured material as well. we're going to need 20 tons. We have to be able to fill up a container or a van truck. Anything less than that, the cost starts going up quite a bit. Now, that's not an absolute hard stop, but it's a general, you're going to have to generate 20 tons of rubber to make this worthwhile. Also, mixed color material is going to have less value than, say, a solid white or a solid black. Also, typically, to keep the value up, you're going to want it to be either all cured or all uncured. Partially cured and mixed, you're starting to get into areas where the limitations of what can be done with it are very slim. So the baled packaged neat stuff is going to be worth more than in bulk, but we do offer services for bulk containers on site where you can dump into and put in, but these all that sitting a container out on your site, there's a cost involved with it, and if you're only going to fill it up every month, the cost might be too high to make sense, versus if you're going to fill it up every day, it may be a cost that we're able to absorb somewhat. So things like density, durometer, there's a lot of other factors. Generally, we need rubber that's not going to be contaminated with solvent, dirt, fuel, and really big, things that have other products in them. If it's going to be mixed with plastic, fiber, or metal, that's going to significantly reduce what is able to be done. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just typically means that the cost to you goes higher, and it's typically not something that we're able to purchase, but more we're able to charge to reclaim. And we are able to do reclamation through energy recovery. Most of the rubber that's offered to us that doesn't meet our standards for either internal reclamation or external wholesale to our worldwide network of customers, and it's usually, as long as it's non-hazardous, doesn't have a hazardous chemical on it, we are able to give you a quote to see if this is something that we can, instead of putting in the dirt, get out of the landfill and put out into a product that is typically going to be used for like a fuel source. And I encourage you, if you have any form of rubber and you're generating more than 20 tons in a year, to reach out to us and learn more about trying to divert that from possibly what you're doing with it now, whether it's going to the landfill or going to another source. And let's see if we can add some money to your bottom line. Thanks.